Welcome to Mick and the Psychic, where we leave no stone unturned as we explore all things outside the apparent physical realm.
There is no intent to teach or make you believe or disbelieve anything. It is just a safe space to listen and explore with us.
So for this next episode, you have permission to open your heart and mind as you join myself and Xavier on this deep dive into the unknown.
And they saw this huge boulder in their heart space, and inside of it was their inner child. And first of all, we always thank the inner child for holding whatever pattern. They're doing their best. Collaborate with your inner child and to give her something else to do.
We have a very intriguing guest, actually, Damla Aktekin. Damla is an inner child energetic wound healer, crystal healing teacher, and soul healing writer who helps other self-healers and healers move beyond their energetic wounds of their inner children and shine brighter than they thought possible so they can fully show up in their lives to heal themselves, their families, and their soul tribe. That's an interesting one that we're going to bring up too, I think, Damla. Through her own healing journey, she has discovered how to co-create deep healing connections with crystals. She now lovingly shares this experience through her online programs, her podcast, her writings, as well as her powerful private healing sessions. And today she gets to talk with us on Mick and the Psychic. Damla, welcome.
Beautiful, thank you. And you keep saying he'll swapping the letters around. It's Damla, not Delma.
Oh my gosh. Oh,
It's
Damla,
all good.
I'm so sorry.
It's all good.
Yep. Dyslexic moment.
It's only
Good thing
intention. I have to be here.
Good thing I'm not working with
Thank you.
numbers. That's fine. This is
All
good.
good. A little bit dyslexic this morning.
Yes.
It's all good.
Welcome, Damla. Very sorry about that. Wow. Okay.
Awesome.
Crystals, we've got so many different ways to go, but the inner child work.
Yeah, very curious.
It's a lot of therapists. I use it a bit. Xavier uses it a bit, but a lot of people use it in different or work with the inner child in different ways. Sounds like you've got a very specific way of working with the inner child. Can you, I guess, A, talk about what the inner child is, and then kind of B, talk about how you work with the inner child?
Yes. And the way it's sort of emerged in my healing work is a little different than what you might think when you hear the word inner child. And first of all, I like to say that I work with inner children, because you have multiple inner children in your quantum field. You have the past, the present parallel, and the future, as well as the inner children of your ancestors living in and through you.
Wow.
And the way they sort of came into my work is, first of all, at first I didn't even call it that. I would connect with someone, and I'm clairaudient and a little bit clairvoyant, and I'm an intuitive empath. Also, I feel sense. What I would do is I would guide my clients through sort of this awareness journey in their bodies, and more often than not, they would take me to a place where there's something going on. There might be an energetic wound there, or there might be something there, a message. And I usually tune into them energetically before we meet, and I sort of find, more often than not, like those two things match, like where they take me and where I feel we will go. And in those sessions, more and more, I just was guided to ask questions around finding beings inside what people were sensing. So they might tell me, like, I'm sensing a little bit of density around my heart. And I would be like, immediately this question would pop up in my head of like, how old is this feeling? Or I would say, look into the heart of that congestion. Who do you see there? And more often than not, they would describe a child to me hidden in that feeling. And through doing this hundreds of times, I realized that there's a specific pattern. First of all, it's almost like we have a storage of these like innocent, not innocent in the sense of naive, but innocent in the sense of like full of potential parts of ourselves, stored in a certain way in our energetic and physical bodies.
Wow.
And I also found out that through a certain kind of inquiry and a certain kind of tenderness, you can bring these parts out to play. And they either have a message for you for whatever is going on in your life right now, or more often than not, these are very survivalist parts of you that have realized, okay, if I hold on to this certain pattern, I can survive this moment. So they may be holding on to a certain pattern, a certain pain point, or a certain discomfort, or a certain way of thinking. But I also realized they're so very open to changing those patterns. So it becomes this interaction of a playful interaction when you treat them with respect, when you treat them with openness. And when you're not going in with the intention of, and that has been my experience, like these parts of ours, they're not broken. They're not, Beyonce, like I've never encountered something like that. What I encountered was, like in certain cases, they may not feel safe enough yet to come out and play. And there are ways to be with that. So they're full of potential. They have a message for you. They carry a pattern that you can work with them together lovingly to change.
Oh.
So what do you think they are? So are they a representation of us at a certain time, or are they like a separate intelligence that we have? What do you think the inner child actually is?
They are quantum representations of you stored in your multidimensional field vessel.
It's okay. We're used to this kind of speak, so that's
well done.
great.
That's fine. Everyone write that down.
How do you explain that? Yeah, like, you're trying to also tell the audience there's no such thing as time, and we exist on multiple layers and different dimensions, and it's like for some people, others are like, yeah, I get it. so
you're saying that.
Say that in a different way.
Yeah.
This is my current understanding of it, and it keeps changing and evolving.
Yeah, it would. Yes.
Current understanding of it is this, through experience working with clients and through experience working and connecting with them myself. Whatever is going on in your life, Mick, is going to awaken a certain pattern holder. They're like pattern holders. So it's not that, there are millions and millions of them, because we have lived millions and millions of moments in this life and others. But the inner child that's going to come out to play in a particular moment is going to be selected by your beautiful intelligence, beautiful knowing soul, to say, okay, this is the part that wants to come out and speak to you right now. Does that answer your question?
I feel like it does, and even the first part, that it's from a higher level of self. So it's not from yourself as the person here. It's from a facet of the higher level of yourself that comes from, could be other lives or ancestral or current.
I am a little wary of the word higher.
Sure.
Because they live in the body, like they live
okay.
very much three-dimensional. They
have
a three-dimensional element.
Yeah.
And I'm also, the way I define the higher self is not necessarily like higher, above and, beyond the clouds. And
it's just a term people use, I think.
The way I define your divine self, your soul, or your highest self is that level of conscious awareness that can hold everything, that can hold all the duality, that can hold your wounds, that can hold your shortcomings, your shadow, everything lovingly. And that's my definition of divine love and
beautiful
divine
definition
as well. So if you look at it that way, yes, they are a part of our divine fabric, if you will. But I wouldn't put them in the bucket of they're just higher vibrational, Right. No, they live in the body. They're not, floating around you. They're literally in your body.
So you're saying that part of you resides within your body, And you know this because you feel it when it comes through. You feel it in certain ways in your body, or is it found somewhere in the body?
Yes and yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Some people in their own so that people might not always be able to figure it out themselves or know that there's inner child part of themselves that wants to come out and play or heal something that you're going through in your life, but you're able to help guide your clients through it to help dig it up and see what's going on. And because you've had so much experience with it, like I know over my journey, you get what you're ready for, and then your clients keep coming. That is supposed to be something that's supposed to be your specialty and that you work on. So you kept having clients that repeatedly this inner child stuff would come up and you're like, wow. And then you figured out how it was. So that's how you're describing.
Pay attention. Exactly. I started to pay attention and see certain things repeating.
Yes.
But to come back to you, think of like a 2-year-old running naked in the yard. They love being in the body. They don't want to go up and above and floating. They want to feel the grass underneath their feet. They want to just feel the joy. They love eating. They love fruit. They love smiling. Like they love feeling all the emotions, and the emotions happen in the body. Does that help?
And they don't hold back either in any emotion.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. So do you find that helps? Because I know you said when you're helping work with the inner child, I noticed you said their way, they find it really easy when you're working with that energy to learn something new and to shift some stuff, because as we get older, we can get a bit more stubborn and set in our ways. So working with the inner child would be so beautiful to help them facilitate a change that they need. And you can pull that aspect of themselves, like I'd call it an aspect, I guess, out to teach them how to deal with this adult part of their life in a more perhaps productive way.
Exactly. And there are certain advantages. One of them is like, I don't have to know your history. I don't have to know the details of your trauma. Like the moment you take a journey with me into your body and you begin to identify what you sense and feel and put that into symbolic words, that's exactly what we're working with. And more often than not, whatever the inner child is holding on to as a pattern is not going to be stored in words. It's stored as sensations. It's stored as emotion. It's stored as this symbolic story. And as we relate to them, what I do more often than not is help people to create a safe zone for the child in them. And that we also do through our imagination, through our symbolic connection. Like we might give the child this beautiful rainbow blanket to put around her, and that symbolizes love. That's more than words, right? The warmth, being surrounded, like being held, we all remember that. It's like bringing it all down to these sensational, bodily, but also kind of magical, playful journey where we can do anything. That's the other part. It doesn't have to be like you're going from, you have to do A first or B or C to get to D. You can just jump to D and you can be in the playful, loving space. It's so very powerful, and people feel it in their bodies immediately, like their shoulders get looser, their smiles get bigger. So there's something to be said about connecting with that part of you that holds like infinite potential and growth.
So you use a lot of metaphors in the healing space so that you can move beyond language, I guess, because we only have certain words to be able to describe things. So using metaphors in a way is helpful. You say that they're children, and you talk about them being children in the sense of their innocence. But are they children in the sense of how you need to heal or play with them as well? Like how you communicate with them?
Sometimes.
You change your words, yeah.
Sometimes, I mean, I might change I'm a mom too. I might change my voice a little, I mean, not like fake my voice, but my voice might become a little bit more soothing at times, or a little bit more like, okay, this is what we will do next type of thing.
Yeah. Gentle.
Gentle. Yeah, I mean, it's different every time. And what I always say is like, I am not looking to necessarily awaken something in you, but I'm here to help you connect with whatever wants to awaken.
So Damla, is that, yeah, it's so, I guess that was my next thing. You know, why would people start experiencing this? Is there a timing where that inner child or one of the inner children comes up for you in your life? Is it something that naturally happens, or just people come and see you and they're not sure what's going on and you help point that out?
It could be in a number of things, but it happens in two ways. Either you're on a healing journey for your wellness, finances, relationships, whatever, and you know there's something there already. And it shows up in your life as emotional, physical, or spiritual pain. So that we can dive into. Or you have already done some work, but then there's this goal that you want to reach in your relationships, in your finances, in your wellness journey. And no matter what you do, something isn't, you know, moving. And the way I explain that, and in those cases, inner child healing can be miraculous too. So imagine someone, again, I'm going to come to the heart. Like one of the examples I tell people is this person that I worked with, and they saw this huge boulder in their heart space, and inside of it was their inner child. So, and she described the feeling as heavy, and the inner child is holding this pattern. And first of all, we always thank the inner child for holding whatever pattern. They're doing their best. And then imagine this woman wanting to take a step towards, I don't know, being an entrepreneur or taking a different career path or whatever it is. Their steps are, and meanwhile, the inner child is like, no, let's stay here. Let's plant you down here. Let's get things heavy. You know, there's always going to be that like inner push and pull, and something will feel like holding you back. So in those cases also, it can be pretty miraculous to collaborate with your inner child and to give her something else to do other than holding you heavy and in place.
An inner child might find, you know, an adult striving to be an entrepreneur is kind of boring. Like, it's not like they want to play and have fun and not take life so seriously. So maybe doing some really heavy stuff, business, making big decisions, buying houses, having a mortgage could seem a bit draining on an inner child. Is that the kind of stuff that comes up, or is it?
No, it's mostly fear.
Mostly fear. So the unknown.
Yeah, survival and fear.
Survival, yep. So the base chakra, that protection and grounding. How do you go then with, all right, so you're tapping into the inner child and helping them release. Is it harder or is it different if the inner child, for them, their own lifetime, their own childhood was really traumatic, and that inner child is overly scared? They didn't have that fun and innocence and naivety when they were young. They missed out on a childhood. Say someone had to grow up really quickly, or they had abuse or a really traumatic time. Is it different to approach when they have a relationship?
It might take longer. I hear you.
Yeah.
What you're saying, what if they can't even like recognize that,
Access them, yeah, because they don't know what inner child is because they didn't get to be one.
So what happens is the work still can be done. In those cases, people usually see the rock, the heaviness, but they don't always see the inner spark in it, the person. And we can still work with the body and the visualization too. And it also, like in people like this, and I'm going to include myself in that category, if you've been through trauma during your childhood, it's going to take a little bit of a time to like I get to know you energetically and you get to know me energetically. We come to a point of trust.
Beautiful, yeah.
And that might take 1 session, 2 sessions, and then the 3rd session, we can finally begin to see the light inside that's been hiding. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, so just take a bit more work to help find the spark first and then be able to do the work you need to. That's lovely.
I think the other piece of that is the work doesn't have to be and look like anybody else's. Like I can just simply work with you in guiding you through your bodily sensations. You may not be able to see a child in there or hear something that they say, that's fine. But as long as like you're there, you're present, you're ready, willing, and able to stay present during a session, the work will happen. It just may happen differently for you.
Yeah, as long as the intention's there, it'll work.
Yeah. What we're working through is trauma, and that has its own density and its own pathways. So there's a lot of gentleness. There's a lot, and sometimes it's used 2 steps forwards, 1 step back, and again. So a lot of patience, but there's also so much magic that can happen.
And often does through those sort of situations. I mean, that's sometimes, I guess, the silver lining of traumas or things that we work through is we get to a point where we wouldn't have gotten there without that, or we wouldn't be ourselves without that. So it's obviously takes a lot of care and patience and time. And I love that you thank, no matter what the inner child is doing, thank them for doing the best that they can. That's a beautiful practice and a beautiful attitude. You talk about children, right? Which is really interesting because a lot of people that do inner child work talk about the inner child, and the inner child has different experiences, and it's normally just through this lifetime. You're throwing out there inner children. Can you talk about that concept of inner children?
Every time a different version comes up, so then that makes it pretty clear to me. When I'm working with the same person, they're giving me their 14-year-old self, and then 5-year-old self, and so on. And then occasionally I ask the person, like, how old is this sensation in your body? And they say, as old as time. And I believe them. So that tells me more of an intergenerational, maybe even like a species trauma that we're touching on. So no matter what comes in, there are ways to be with that. And one of the things, my role is, so as we're working, I'm working with crystals. I'm like holding that safe space for them. Occasionally, I might work with a tuning fork or whatever I'm guided to. I'm very open to that moment-to-moment guidance. Right. But it's the way this works is the moment the person decides to work with me, like even before then, like they look at me, they're like, okay, there's something here for me. They know like whatever needs to heal through our working together is going to be awakened. And then when we meet, it's already there. And they tell me like 2-3 days ago, they started to feel this. And I start to feel it in my end. And yeah, there's a level of intelligence in our fields. Our DNAs have black holes in them. And there's a lot of energetic information in our DNAs. So it's a very beautiful synchronistic thing that when I meet someone, like the work we're supposed to do is already like almost predetermined. I'm not predetermined, but like chosen for that particular moment.
So you're already connecting energetically before the session has started. Does that mean that there's certain, I guess, preparation that needs to happen before a session that happens outside of your kind of conscious awareness?
My intention is, I don't need to know. There's everything there's to know about you, but my intention is like whatever needs to come through for this session may come through. And my original training, I come from a yogic background, and I tune into the chakras. I say like, which chakra are we looking at today? And I sort of get this like, okay, the second chakra is like beep, beep, beep. Like this, whatever we're going to work on is going to tie to the second chakra issue. And that's sort of my own symbolic language of knowing what we're entering into. You're smiling, Xavier. What's happening?
Yeah, I'm just giggling because I just love hearing how different healers and psychics tune in. So I love how you said that I can hear the second chakras going beep, beep, beep. So I just love how that's like you just know. And I loved how you were bringing up about, there's just, you have this feeling like you're meant to be together. The people who need you will find you. And so that's how it's guided. You start picking up stuff about them. And I get the same thing. And then they like my clients might start telling me how amazing it is and all the coincidences and how funny it is that we have so much in common. And I said, well, that's why you chose me as your healer at this time. That's why you didn't see me 3 months ago, because you didn't go through that thing yet. You needed to get here at this, like it's all perfectly lines up because there's bigger things at play to line everybody up at the perfect time, which is beautiful. Yeah.
Can I just say something that's sort of coming in, which is like, okay, so a lot of the times people approach inner child healing as like, we need to fix them.
Yep.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yep.
That's not a nice feeling.
In my opinion, they might need a certain level of tenderness, attention, but it's not about fixing it all. It's about you connect, and then it becomes a conversation. That's the other part. Like occasionally people also tune into inner children to hear messages, which is great, which is part of what I do too. But then you can also ask them questions. You can sort of kindly request them to, instead of giving you the lower back pain every time they need to get your attention, you can tell them like, can you like gently tap on my shoulder, or some other way of connecting with you that's not that uncomfortable for you. So it's a two-way street, and there's never forcing of anything. I mean, it's again, the two, like, yes, you could force them, but they'll be traumatic. That's not in my, that's not something I do or recommend. But a 2-year-old is gonna respond to going down to their level, looking at their eyes and acknowledging where they are and showing interest at what they want to show you. They love that. They want to just show you things. They want to take you into their world. Yeah. So that kind of respectful, loving communication is what it takes for your inner children to form a healing bond with you.
I think acknowledgement of the inner child is that's something, one of the things that's passed through that kind of inner child work is, really looking at that acknowledgement. And particularly when you're talking, let's say from a 2-year-old perspective, then it's about going to that level and working with that level. I think that's lovely. Yeah. I want to get to crystals in a moment, but because I love your background, by the way, for those that are just listening to the podcast and not watching it, there is the most incredible background, and Xavier had crazy FOMO.
Yes, matches my hair.
That does match your hair. What have you? What crystal have you got in the background? Like a tapestry? What is it?
A picture of a multicolor quartz, but it's a tapestry. So it has the photograph of the crystal on a fabric.
Very cool.
It's beautiful. We'll get to that. We'll get to the crystals, but just where you're talking about the kind of connection that you might have with people and timing. You also mentioned a little bit about like a soul group or a soul tribe. Was it soul tribe? You said?
Well, the ancestors you mentioned.
Well, but you're talking about healing others in your family and also in your soul tribe. With your soul tribe, is this who are they?
Okay. Well, I didn't say soul tribe.
Oh, sorry.
I said, but we can get there too. I think I understand what you mean by that. I said the inner children of your ancestors, your blood, but it could also be your soul family. So how to explain this? I'm going to give the example of my ancestors. I grew up in Turkey. Mm-hmm. I live in the US now, but I grew up in Turkey, and my grandparents were forced to migrate from Europe, from Greece to Turkey
Right.
during after the Second World War. So, and they have been in wars. They've been in famine, loss,
Lots of trauma.
lots of crap.
Yep. Yep.
So it's inevitable for some of that to have moved through the DNA to me, and it has, and I feel that on the points of my life where I'm like, okay, let me do this new project, let me do this new thing, let me go to the US, like I'm being pulled to US.
Yeah.
To live in the US. They're like, let's pull you a little bit back, like let's keep you safe. So that's a very like a solid example that I'm aware of in my life. And migration, whether it's forced, which it was in the case of my great grandparents, or whether it's by choice, which was in the case of me, moving from one energetic area to another is always going to leave a mark on your system, in your DNA, even moving from house to house.
Oh, okay.
Of my childhood.
And that's only one type of energetic wound that I mentioned. On my website, if I can mention that, there's a quiz, which is called Your Energetic Wounds Quiz, that you can take. It's free, and it will tell you about all the different kinds of energetic wounds that you might be carrying. And again, some of those might be yours from this lifetime, or it could be have been passed on to you from your ancestors.
Right.
So there's that. There's also species memory. The pandemic is a great example. So that's a collective wound. Wars are examples of collective wounds that we have moved through, and we unfortunately continue to move through. Other wounds are definitely one particular one that, you know, we think about wound or trauma as like someone physically hurt you, or someone, and it could have been done through words too. But one particular wound is not being seen, heard, or understood. That's a wound.
Mm-hmm.
And you can imagine that if you live through that, that'll leave a mark on you. If your mom lived through that, that's going to leave a mark on you in your childhood. If your mom's mom lived through any of these wounds that I'm mentioning, I mean, it's just so logical to me that they would be passed on in some way or capacity.
Unless they managed to work on it themselves before you were born.
That's where I'm coming to. Which is, in the moment of discomfort in your body, in the moment of things not flowing as you like them to flow in your life, body, energy, it doesn't matter where the wound has come from. Yes, there are certain things that you can send back to sender, but there are certain things that you have taken on willingly or unwillingly that is now your responsibility to move through, resolve, and heal.
But then you don't pass it then on to your children, possibly.
Well, you're going to pass on some stuff, but you try to
just
do
not
the
that.
best.
a lot of people talk about breaking the cycle, and that being a thing. It can be through behaviors as well as, it sounds like, energetic wounds as well. That so when you're, I guess what you're saying is, when you're working on yourself and you're working on your own traumas and wounds, you're actually doing it for generations to be as well. Is it, what's the flow on effect from doing
for your immediate surroundings, for people you work with, people you live with in the same house,
Energies everywhere, yeah.
Goes out from there.
Fantastic. That's a great responsibility to work on yourself. You might think it's selfish, but you're helping many people. Oh, that's a good
one single example. My daughter is 10 years old, and I have my not so great feeling moments. And one thing we've been doing since she's born is I when I'm feeling off, I come down to her eye level, I look at her and I say, this is not about you. I feel crappy today. I'm feeling moody, and I'm just going to take care of myself a little bit. I'm going to go to the other room. I'll meditate, do whatever, but this has nothing to do with you. And she started to do the same pretty quickly. She might be upset about something. She might like lash out isn't the word, but like she might say something to me a little bit more angrily than usual. And then 2 seconds later, she turns around and says, Mom, I'm sorry, that wasn't about you. It was about me. So that's how you break the cycle. But that took me a long while to get there. Because I thought my anger was, I thought lashing out was okay. I had no idea where my anger was coming from. I had no idea where my anxiety was coming from. So it takes a lot of inner awareness to say, okay, like which part is hurting right now? And how can I take care of what they need?
That's incredible, insightful communication that you've been able to pass down to your daughter. Like that's incredible for her to have that tool to know when that's the case and then communicate that, because how much of the issues that we have with other people is just misunderstanding because, you know, we're upset for something else.
Yeah.
With that though, how did you get to where you're at then? So, I mean, how did you just wake up and go, oh, wow.
Falling on my face.
Yeah.
Don't we all?
Interrupt you. Go ahead.
So, yeah, how did you get to this point for yourself to learn how to heal yourself and then help others heal themselves?
Or was it the other way?
Or heal other people? Yeah, or was it the other way around? Did someone help you? Did someone show you?
Yeah, I mean, I lived the first 30 years of my life. I'm 43 now. The first 30 years of my life, I thought what I had, how I've been was normal. That's how you are. That's how my family is, you know. And I didn't realize all of the wounding that was hiding in there. And it took me, actually, it was motherhood was my most recent falling on my face. I became a mom in 2012 through emergency C-section. And before that, I was a full-time yoga teacher. So, and before that, I was in the corporate world. So that's another story. But coming into 2012, I became a mom. And then like everything came out. Everything I haven't healed came out. Like I couldn't show it down. I couldn't not look at it. And once I looked at it, like here's this light being in your life, and it's a choice then, like, do I stay like this or do I do something else? And I decided to explore anything and everything that would help me feel relief, that would help me feel better so that I can be there for my daughter in a better way. And that's how I came into contact with crystals, mantras, EFT tapping, sound healing, and crystals in particular made a huge impact. It wasn't like I was a changed person from one moment to the next, but gradually I felt better and better and better. And I began to understand that like I was running on empty. I was running on very little resources. I didn't understand the need for meeting my own needs and meeting the needs of my inner children. It was like, that was the norm in my family. Like, you don't complain, you just keep doing the job in front of you. But then with this surgery, I was just like, yeah, whatever resources I had, gone.
Yeah.
So I had to rebuild myself, like bit by bit, like 10-minute crystal healing by 10-minute crystal healing. And I didn't have time to open up a book and memorize a bunch of crystals, but what I had was I could hold them in my hand. I could feel them. I could like intuitively, I placed them on my chakras. That's what I knew. And I began to feel this like warmth, these sensations of just relaxation. And then I began to realize my intuition was opening up. At first, I was like, okay, do I do this crystal or next? Let me ask the pendulum. And then I realized, like one day I couldn't find the pendulum and just my hand went to the crystals and that was fine. You know,
I wonder why you couldn't find it. See, you know.
Yeah. And then later, when I read and learned more about it, actually, that type of like deep meditation actually does improve your intuition. There's a lot of scientific research behind it. So it has been a journey. And then the other thing I realized is that there's a lot of dogma around crystals and crystal healing. What goes where? That wasn't my experience. Like when I came
So
to
what
a
made you
point,
pick up a crystal then, if you hadn't had, I guess, a background in that sort of thing? What made you look to crystals to replenish the very little resources you had left?
synchronicity. Like
Wow.
I said, I'm open to just, I said like very clearly, just send me whatever. That was my conversation with the universe. Send me whatever. So I found this YouTube video one night in the middle of the night when I couldn't sleep that talked about crystal. The next day I ordered like the biggest crystals I could afford.
Wow.
Not knowing that I didn't need to do that.
No,
But
No, the big ones are better,
later.
right?
It's about the grade and everything else. Yeah.
Now I know not necessarily.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then for me, it was, I have this impulse or this innate thing that I want to share things. Once I came to a certain resource level that I was a little bit fuller, I started to offer these group healing, crystal healing workshops, and started to see people one-on-one for crystal healing. And people kept asking me, like, what crystal do I use? What crystal goes where? And in those workshops, I don't tell people, not even the names of the crystals. They pick through their intuition. They place them, like I guide them through meditation, but they place them, you know, according to their intuition. And it works every single time. So the first thing I realized, the reason I couldn't like immediately respond to those people was because I never somehow saw my relationship with crystals as using them.
Okay.
It wasn't about using them. It was about co-creating with them. Right. It was about, again, with the inner child, like just like the inner child healing, forming this, because it was perhaps my inner child responding to it as well. It was a beautiful, magical journey, playful. Like they would get to know my energy. I would feel into their energy, and then we would create magic together. And yes, you can add intention to that. Yes, you can add like asking for guidance to that. But the thing itself was, for me, the magical thing. What a beautiful thing. There's this structure that I can commune with. And then I looked at that closer and I realized I am a crystal too. My bones are 65% or more crystal. DNA is a liquid crystal. Our plasma lymph is also liquid crystal. Your eyes, 95% or more water, crystal. So I realized I'm talking to a kin. I'm talking to an ancestor who is much older than me, who knows me, who is me. That's why I'm able to talk so easily without words. So it opened up a whole different universe for me, where now I look around and I see a crystal here. Earth is made up of minerals. I see in the drywall is made up of crystals. The floor, wood, has DNA. Bacteria, viruses, all the beings that have DNA are your ancestors, and they're also made up of crystals. So that means I can communicate with them. The other thing I realized is that crystals also help me to open up to subtler realms. Like I can tune into the radio station of what kind of online course do I want to create next?
I like how you refer to it as a radio station.
Yeah, or what kind of, I don't know, healing wants to come through me next. So all sorts of possibilities when you approach them, not from the mindset of what can I get out of them versus how can I get into this relationship with them.
How can you tune into them to better know yourself and where you come from, maybe instead? I think you've just blown people's brains. The two main topics you've mentioned about the inner child and working with it, a lot of people I know listening would be like, but I usually, when my body is paining me or something, that's like the universe or the energy or something telling me something's wrong with my body. They wouldn't think of it as their inner child, or their ego usually is what protects them from fear, because that's ego's job. So thinking about it, you're in a child instead might be a bit of a mind blow. And now you're talking about crystal and everything, rather than like other people would refer to that as just energy, that we're all connected. But you're saying that energy is crystals, like the energy of crystals being, I've heard of crystalline, the crystalline water, doing meditation with that kind of energy. But I haven't really thought of it about crystals being in everything, right? Like in the water and things like that, rather than I think of it as energy. So yeah, people are just, I can hear them listening, thinking about, wow, okay, I didn't think of it like that, and how connected to the crystals you are. I know I grab crystals, and sometimes people go, oh, but the amethyst, that's, purple, so it's for your third eye. And it's like, no, you can put the intention or put it anywhere on your body. It's still going to help go where you're guided, which is sort of how I do crystal gridding. Just, there's no rules to it. Just put things where you're guided to.
They're species, right? They're a sort of structure. Yeah. We are a species. You were mentioning, Meek, that we have soul groups, crystals. We are not just connected to our own soul group, but we're connected to the species. And through time, similar with them, which is why the size doesn't matter. If you connect with one crystal, you're essentially connected with all crystals, and they've been through here through all time, so they know much more than you. Yep. I mean, in your bones too. That expression, bone knowing. Your bones know.
Yeah, knowing my bones. Yeah.
Yep. But again, they can help you connect to your bones because of their beautiful repeating symmetrical geometrical structure. They're somehow able to amplify things. That's why laser beams use them. They can focus things, or they can amplify things, like the watches. So I mean, there's so much there. I think one thing that was coming through was I started to teach crystal healing to children, 5 to 8 year olds. And you know what they don't ask? They don't ask, what is this crystal made up of?
Yeah.
What are the electrical properties? They pick them up, they look at them, and that, wow, this feels cool, warm, smooth. And they're exploring. And then I guide them through one of the things I teach them, and I teach it in my online course now too. You hold a crystal and I say, become a tiny person. I'm going to the crystal.
Wow.
Which is what a child is, right? And they do it. And you know what they see? They see beautiful colors. Without me telling them anything, they see geometric symbols and signs and labyrinths in them. They're able to connect with their ancestors through the touch and holding of a crystal. And if they can do that, we can do that too.
Yeah, they just haven't been told that it's just your imagination, it's all in your mind. It's like, yeah, you're right, it is imagination, it is all in your mind, so go there. But yeah, it's funny, children haven't, that's wonderful. Do you think then, because I know a lot of people could just pick up a crystal and it's like, well, it's pretty, but it's just a pretty rock, and put it down and not feel anything. Do you think, because you're talking about your relationship with crystals, not how do you switch it on, how do you make it work? You're talking about the relationship you have with the crystal. Is there an entropy in how your relationship builds with the crystals as to the kind of effect and energetic effect you get from those crystals? Like the more you work with them, the more you understand them, or they understand you, the more powerful it is?
Exactly.
Right.
Do you get along with a person that you just met versus a friend you had for years and years?
Depends on
Similar-
the friend and the person I've just met. But in general, yes.
Yeah.
Good point.
Depends on the crystal too.
Yeah, okay.
But
Yeah,
one
wow.
of the things I've created is this 21-day journey with a journal. I created a crystal healing journal.
Okay.
It's on my website, it's on Amazon. So for 21 days, you pick 1 to 7 crystals. That's the other thing. Like people think they need a whole bunch. You can start with just 1, and most likely you have it in your jewelry box
Right.
if you're a woman.
Yeah.
Or if you identify as a woman. So 1 through 7, and the fewer the better. They get to know you, you get to know them. And then you can begin to ask questions like, where do you want to go in on my body? Not where should I place you? Where do you want to go on my body?
Exactly.
What other crystals do you like to have around you?
Mhm.
Where would you like to sit? Where would you feel most cherished in my room? Do you want to go on the floor? Do you want to go on the windowsill? And it's a knowing, it's a feeling. Yes, they're not gonna be, talking to you with words, but you can get that energetic sensation.
So
And
if
that becomes, go ahead.
if you're not as psychic, will that
Yeah.
develop? I guess that's part of the program, isn't it? I'm sure you do meditations and things to try and develop that, but will that come?
In different ways, yes. You
Okay.
can also just close your eyes and sort of ask question and just see where they want to go and then put them there. So you might be more sight oriented. You might be more hearing oriented like I am. So you might hear a word or a sentence, or you might just pick up the crystal and let your body walk you to where she needs to go.
Wow.
Some people have taste or the smell thing, but that's like, I don't really know how that works. I don't have that, but like you might be guided to, like you might smell something nice from a certain location in your house and you might be guided there.
You might taste something metallic in your mouth when you're in the right spot or something.
Again, like children, we often get caught up in this thing of like, is it just in my mind? It could be. I mean, what's the worst that could happen? Like if you place it in what you think is a wrong place, you can just the next day put it somewhere else. It's not gonna, but it's just also a way for you to, like you said, develop your relationship with your knowing, with your sensing.
So will that help doing that with a crystal? Is that going to amplify those, I guess, abilities to tune into that more subtle energetic realm?
Yeah. I mean, let's say I sit you in the most uncomfortable chair in my house versus I put you in the most plush chair in my house. Yeah, they're gonna feel the difference, even if it's just in the way that you feel like you're treating them a little better. That will make a difference in your openness.
So crystal, sitting in the bottom of your jewelry box or something like that's going to be a bit sad, lonely, not feeling like it's being respected for its full potential, as opposed to a crystal you've put somewhere that you feel like it's actually doing something. So thinking of crystals as a personality is a different concept for people listening too. I'm just trying to think of how the audience is listening going, they have feelings? What do you mean if I'm going to offend it if I put it somewhere that's not really helpful for me? Or is it just sort of wasting the energy of the crystal because it's somewhere that's not really doing anything for you?
I think that's a little, again, like projecting. That's a little bit more smaller thinking. Like, do they have feelings? Are they going to be? No, they're not.
I'm thinking of the people listening, of how they might be processing what you're saying.
Yeah.
I hear what you're saying, but I think it's more like, how can I create a sacredness around this.
Beautiful. Yeah.
And placing them in a certain ways is part of that sacredness. How can I create a ritual where I created this beautiful, lying down space in my room, and every time I go there, that creates that awakens something in me. And how can I, it's good to look at them. How can I place them even at eye level?
Yeah.
So when I see them throughout my day, it doesn't have to be you go into a meditation. I just touch them, I acknowledge them. That can be a mindful moment. And again, with the children, it's there's the mystical element, but it can also be just they can also be, the crystals, just an element of mindfulness that brings you more to the now. The weight of them, just the pleasure of holding them, just the pleasure of moving them from one place to another. That can be your, just like holding a tea or a coffee, that can be your little sacred ritual.
Nice, like how people really like the feeling of palm stones and they like rubbing them because of the texture. I know I'm very much resonated with what you said about asking the crystals, what other crystals do you like to be with? Like if I went to put on a bracelet, I see some people have many, say, different kinds of crystal bracelets on, for example. They have so many. I know I have lots of friends that might put 10 different crystal tumbler stones in their bra, but not all crystals might love to live together. So I like to ask, would you like to be worn with me today? And I pick up another bracelet, like, are you two happy together? And I'll just feel into the energy and just see if that would be complementary together for not just any time, I guess, but maybe for what I need that day or what I might be coming across that day. Or how many, should they all be next to my bed for sleep? Or is that going to mess with my dreams a bit too much and I might have a restless night? So should I move some away? So just tuning into that. I definitely do that myself. So I liked how you explained that.
I hear you. I also occasionally place, I have quite a bit now. Occasionally, I just place them all around me. There's nothing.
Yeah.
You're guided to carry a whole bunch in your bra.
Do it. It's not going to do anything bad. All I've noticed with some clients is that sometimes if they're having restless night sleep, that's the first thing I get guided to ask is how many crystals and what do you have close to your bed where you sleep. I've noticed that's a bit of a pattern sometimes. There might be a bit too many different things happening at once for them, but other people it might be totally fine and they can handle it. So
strangely, I have none in my sleep ritual.
I
don't have on my bed, but I do feel just like working and practicing with a mantra.
Mm-hmm.
If you lived with a mantra for a while, it's going to become a part of your tapestry. And that's how I feel now that I've been with these crystals for so long, they're with me wherever I go. And they come forward when I need them, if that makes sense.
That's great, getting to know them too and having it with you. Yeah.
This is gonna sound rude, and I don't mean it in a rude way.
Here we
Just
go.
looking at treating crystals very differently reminds me of the beautiful child's play that you have with pet rocks. You know what I mean? Where it's you've given significance to this rock and you treat it that way, and they treat it with real love, and it's a really special thing, and they get so much from the relationship they have with the pet rock, and the parents are we have to bring the rock with us, so it's going to be a nightmare if we leave it behind.
Monkey,
and then put it on a whole lot of rocks, and then which one was the pet rock? Damn it, why did you put it there? But there is a specific, a real relationship that's from that. Is a crystal a super powerful pet rock where it's rude to call it a pet. It's more like a buddy, an ancient ancestor, if you can call an ancient ancestor a pet. Is it just a super powerful ancient ancestor rock that you give the relationship, but there's also other powers in it? It's not just a rock. Where's the magic in the crystal, apart from what it looks like?
Well, the rocks are magical too, right? They do have minerals.
I think so. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
They can have quartz through them.
I think you're touching a beautiful point, which is what you make sacred becomes sacred.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And there's nothing wrong with that. You could hold a plastic toy or a
Yeah.
plastic thing, and that can become your sacred object.
Absolutely.
The thing with crystals, I find, is they're like you. They're like holding you in your hand. And in times of my life, and I know other people's, when it's hard for you to show yourself love, they can show you how to love you. They can be that place. They're beautiful. They're beautiful. And they can show you how beautiful you are. That's my experience with them. Can a rock do that? Potentially, possibly, but I've found crystals like quartz, lapis lazuli, I mean, a whole bunch of them, to be just like more closer representations of us, if that makes sense.
Love that.
Yes and no.
I think
Yes.
people listening, you would have turned their minds upside down about crystals and how they think about them and how they use them. Yeah, it's just been such a beautiful conversation. And I think you've just cracked open within a child and crystals combined, the two major topics. Like everyone listening will be thinking about both those topics in such a different way, which is really nice because, you know, some might have a really deep relationship with crystals and others would just be starting collecting them and then because they're pretty and putting them on when they feel like wearing them or not sure what to do with them. But I love your messages about using your intuition and feeling them, and having that relationship with them is very important, and getting to know them. And I think I was taught that right at the start. I started just buying when I became intuitive and psychic and was learning. I just wanted like one of everything. And so I have shelves with all these different crystals on them, and I can't remember all the names, but it doesn't matter because I would hold one and tune in and ask it where it wants to go. And I will also get guided intuitively to just place them on my clients or put them somewhere as well, which is really nice. And it's a beautiful thing to try to learn to trust and just do what you're guided. You don't have to follow the rule book. Just because it's red doesn't mean it has to be for your base chakra. Just use it for where you want to. I like that message that you gave.
So you have been collecting facets of you, the beautiful parts of you that
Love
you
it.
can tell.
Love that. That's beautiful. So there's all these different facets on my shelves. And so then I can have this connection with them. So I feel like when people are there, then that now I'll look at them thinking they're just looking at the different facets of me or themselves, because then we're all connected. So it's all of us really. Do you have a thing about crystals with sharing yours? Is it okay for other people to touch them?
Ah, good question.
Cleansing and things like that. Some people have a bit thingy, just like with tarot cards, don't touch my cards, don't touch my crystals. How do you feel about that energy with crystals and having to cleanse?
I'm pretty okay with them. I mean, I do take crystals with me to my in-person workshops that people can borrow, and then I cleanse them, bring them. Cleanse them is in like hold the intention of updating their energy. Yeah, not really. I mean, it depends on the person, I guess. But I've been like, my daughter plays with them. She creates like formations, and she puts them in like color groups and things. So yeah, not in particular. I do like them around me in my work area, which is this. This is where we had been connecting for a while. So this is my sacred space. So I like that. They mark and fill my sacred space. And they are, you know, it's interesting because I didn't think this is where I would be when I first came upon, you know, and got curious about them. But it's a continuous learning and evolving journey. And that's what I like about it. And it's different for everyone. And I don't like dictating the journey for other people, but rather opening a door for them to discover their own journey.
Which is, you know, some of the most incredible healers are those that have gone through and had to find and heal themselves and be healed by others. So it's lovely what you offer, knowing that you've been through stuff before, and the use of crystals because you've been playful with them and you've learnt them and you've built relationships with them. I think that's great. What are some of the online, what are some of the things that you do? Just looking at your website. Yeah. Yeah,
You
I
said
took
you
it
have
off
a
you.
free quiz, which is great. And I heard you mention you have a course. So what else do you do so people know how they can connect with you? Because a lot of our listeners will be in Australia. So they'd love to know, I'm sure.
My website and social media handle is adropofom,
I love that name.
adropofom.com.
There's your yoga background. There's your yoga background coming through.
There it is, and
Yep.
and the mantra comes through.
Yeah.
And my name means a droplet, and we're all drops of vibration, a sea of vibration, just like Om. So there you can go to free resources, and I have a few different things there. The quizzes there for your finding out your energetic wounds. I have a free mini crystal healing myths course.
Good.
It's an email course people can take advantage of. And then I also have an online membership called Chakra Bliss Vault, where I publish 3 new crystal healings a month that people can access wherever, whenever. So it's sort of like I create the sacred container for them, and they can enter with or without their crystals. I do connect with crystals on my end. And I connect with people on private sessions for inner child healing, because that tends to be a little bit more intimate, that needs a little bit more trust, guidance, and hand holding, if that makes sense. So yeah.
Prefer that in person, that one to like a Zoom? Would you do that over online, or is that something you prefer in person?
Everything's over Zoom.
Okay, cool. You can do that on
Great.
Zoom. And you also have a podcast, because I listened to one yesterday where I heard you mention your membership.
Yes, it's called Conversations with Healers. It's just like you. I love talking to people in this realm. And it's my way of sort of demystifying some of the things around healing, and also connecting with my soul tribe, whether they're listening or whether they're a guest. So yeah.
Excellent. Sounds very much what we're about too, which is lovely. So of course, that's why you found us and felt it was right to be interviewed by us. Love that.
Yes. And I think you've done an excellent job today of demystifying a lot of things, particularly about crystals and inner children, not just the inner child. Wow, there's a few of us in there.
You've opened some minds today, which is really wonderful. And that's what this podcast is all about. We love helping people just think about all different aspects, take it or leave it, and just open their minds to bigger concepts. And there's nothing too weird and wonderful to talk about. So thank you so much for coming on the show. It's been really beautiful connecting with you.
Doing what you do. I know how much work goes into this and how much love. So thank you.
All the love, yes. A labor of love, is that the saying when you create a podcast? So good job for you as well.
Yeah, that's right.
Thank you so much, Damla. I'm going to practice saying your name correctly now. Yeah, we really, really appreciate you having you on the show, and thank you very much for opening the minds of so many listeners today.
My pleasure.
Thank you, Damla.
That's it for another episode, but that doesn't have to be the end of the conversation.
Feel free to leave your comments on our YouTube channel, or for those podcast listeners, you can email us at mickandthepsychic@gmail.com to leave your feedback or questions.
I'm a certified hypnotherapist and timeline regression therapist. If you wish to contact me to explore the source of an issue you're facing, just book a session at hearnhypnosis.com.au and include the promo code MATP for 10% off. You can contact me on Insta and Facebook at hearnhypnosis.
Check out my website at optimisticxavier.com.au if you feel you'd like to connect with me as a psychic medium, spiritual mentor, or intuitive coach. Include the promo code MATP for 10% discount. You can also find me on Insta, LinkedIn, and Facebook.
We look forward to connecting with you again next time as we attempt to leave no stone unturned.
Bye.
All right, cool. I reckon that should be okay.